Welcome to Waldorf College. I'm Mark Newcomb, and this is COMM 1020 DigiCore, unit number 6. In this unit, we'll have the opportunity to finish up some Final Cut Pro 10 Essentials, Chapter 6, 7, and 9, and look at the ripple, roll, slip, and slide tools within Final Cut. Beautiful tools to use and help caress and edit together as we're telling stories. So let's look at ripple first. The first thing I need to do is choose the select tool. A is the keyboard shortcut. And I'll choose the tail of this first clip, the end of it. And notice as I ripple edit left and right, I'm able to the left make it shorter. As I drag it to the right, it gets longer. But notice how I'm changing the entire length of this story. The total runtime changes when I use the ripple edit. So notice to the left here, I make the total story shorter, and as I drag it to the right, the total story gets longer. The ripple tool, very basic tool. We'll use it quite often as you're in Final Cut Pro. So how is that different than roll? Well, in the roll tool, I'm going to use the trim tool instead. So I'll choose T or trim. And as I select the end of a clip, it takes the head of the clip before it as well. So I have the tail and the head of a clip, and as I drag left and right, I'm able to change the length of the two clips, but I'm not changing the total runtime of the entire project. So as I drag left and right, the total piece is still the same length. It's the clip, the head and tail of each clip that's different. So ripple and roll, those are very common tools. We'll use them a lot. However, this is where it gets really powerful within Final Cut Pro and a nonlinear editor. Let's use the slip. I'm going to go choose the select tool. I'm going to select the clip on the end here. But then I'm going to go back now and pick up the trim tool. And when I do now select this end, notice as I drag left and right, the total run time doesn't change for the entire project. However, the clip itself is able to slip up and down within itself. This is a great way to caress and edit when you have a clip where it needs to be, but it's not quite the beginning and end of the clip that you want. The slip tool. Now, the slip tool is really similar to the slide tool, and here's how I keep them apart. When I was a small child, about second grade, I rode a bus to school, and I got off the school bus one day, and I grew up in the Midwest, so we always had a lot of snow and ice. And there was a very small puddle of ice just in front of my house, not far from it, maybe half a block. So I got off the bus, and I'm heading towards my house, and I see this little patch of ice, and I decide I'm going to stand on it and just shuffle my feet around. There was nowhere to go on this piece of ice because it was so small, it was only about the size of my feet. But I slipped around on this ice, and my neighbor, Todd Snodgrass, sorry Todd, I always tell this story on Todd. Todd Snodgrass came up behind me and he gave me a push, and it was like the Charlie Brown move where I went straight up in the air and came straight down on that piece of ice on my rear end. And of course, I put out my arm to try to break the fall and ended up breaking my collarbone. But I stayed in the same place. It was a slip. I went up and I came down in the same place. That's like the slip tool. I'm able to move, but I'm moving within the same place, the same clip. Now that's different than the slide. Let's look at the slide tool here. To do the slide tool, I'm going to need 3 clips really to look at. So I'm going to grab a little piece of this asset up here, and I'll slide it down into the timeline. So now I have 3 clips, and I'm going to mess with the one in the middle here. So I'll need to go choose the select tool. So I'll select A or keyboard shortcut and select the clip that's in between. And now I'm going to go back and choose the trim tool this time, and I'll get the trim tool. But as I use the trim tool, I'm going to hold down Option and click on the clip in between these two. And now as I drag left and right, notice how the head and tail now, the clip stays the same, but I'm able to slide up and down this timeline in order to change where the clip's perfect. I like where it begins and ends. I just want it in a different place in my story or in my timeline or project. So I'm able to slide it up and down the timeline. So slip and slide, very different. Slip stays in the same place. Slide actually lets you slide up and down your timeline. These are powerful tools. When you're trying to tell stories through video editing, being able to have this kind of control is just a wonderful way of pacing and making a story that's powerful. So ripple, roll, slip, and slide. They're powerful tools that you need to play with enough in Final Cut Pro that they just become transparent to you, just like breathing. You don't think about how to use them as much as it's a tool that's there that you can pick up and use to hopefully tell a better story, because that's really what it's all about when we're editing video. It's about telling a moving story. Well, that's what I've got for you in this unit. I'm Mark Newcomb, and that's Unit 6. I look forward to seeing you in Unit 7.